Awesome. Okay, good. So we're getting started with today's Tanya. So we finished the first book of Tanya, and we're going to learn a whole new study of Tanya. It's called, and we're gonna actually learn the introduction today. It actually takes 3 days. It's split over 3 days. Would have started yesterday on Shabbos, and it goes through to today, Erev Shavuos, and then the first day of Shavuos in the introduction, and then on Tuesday, the second day of Shavuos, we would have the learning of actually start the beginning of Tanya. We'll start it together on Wednesday after both days of Shavuos are over. Okay, so we'll do it inside. We'll do the introduction. I won't make an introduction to the introduction. Actually, maybe I will a little bit, but we can mainly do the introduction inside. So we're going to talk about 2 levels of love of Hashem. I'm just thinking about I think this is part of the meditation, like in one of the classes we were asked, so what do you need to meditate about? What do you meditate about? And then we had that in 2 different areas of Tanya, which we spoke about that at length. And I think you could say that this is perhaps one of the meditations that a person meditates about. This is a whole book on meditating about the greatness of Hashem, how the world relative to Hashem is nothing. And then afterwards, we meditate how much Hashem loves us, and that brings us to a great love of Hashem. So we'll see it inside. Let's learn it inside without explaining too much. This is the introduction, and then we'll take it from there. We'll study it together inside. The Kutei Amarim. So it's always interesting how the Alter Rebbe, who authored this book, writes it a collection of teachings. So kind of, it's not his own ideas, but he's basically collecting other ideas, other great scholars' ideas. Chelik Sheni, it's volume 2, it's second volume. Hanikra b'shem chinuch katan. He wants to actually call it an interesting name. It's called The Education of the Child. Educating the child. Now, why is it called Educating the Child? And the truth is, it's going to be a very strong idea in education, but it's also going to have a message in learning as we grow in life. And that is that, like what you give into your children as a young kid, that inspiration will stay with them for the rest of their life. It'll be so effective and so powerful that no matter where they are in life, it'll always be with them. Your child might later on have ups and downs, but it's so basic, so real, so pure, so strong that basic education of your kid is something that will always be there and that the kid could always tap into, so that's how I would take it. Like, the kid might be 40 years old, 50 years old, and he has a question, should I steal or not? And he has a memory from as a child, as a parent, ingrained in him, so part of his essence that stealing is bad, that essential education will always be part of him. So we'll see what I mean. I'm going to explain more in Tanya today, how that idea will play out. It's a collection of sayings, but who are the sayings collected from? So it's collected from books. The previous Rebbe understands to be specific certain books of the Shalah and the Maharal, the famed Maharal of Prague, and the also very famous holy tzaddik called the Shalah. Those are the books that he is using to base his text off, his Alter Rebbe's second volume of the Tanya, and also Mipi Seifrim from not just from books, but from holy saintly teachers. Who are the saintly teachers? The previous Rebbe says that is specifically referring to the Baal Shem Tov and the Baal Shem Tov student called the Maggid of Mezrich. Kedoshei Elyon, very holy people, Nishmas and Eden, their souls are in Gan Eden. So again, it's a book of collection. It's about educating the child, our inner child, I guess. And also it's collected from books of the 2 great scholars, the Maharal and the Shalah, and also of the sayings of the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. Ira, you wanted to say something?
Just as a side note, Terry's grandmother was related to the Shalah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A descendant, yeah.
Now we know, Ira, why you're enjoying the Tanya so much.
I guess, yeah.
Very good. So the book is based off the Shalah. Very good. Excellent. Awesome. Yusad al Parsha Rishona Shel Krishma. So it's based on their writings, but of which part of Torah are they discussing? They're discussing the first portion of Shema. That's what our study, our book, our lesson is going to be to explain the first part of Shema, which is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which the unity of God, which he's going to call the higher level of unity, Yichud Ilah, and Baruch Shem, and then the second part, Baruch Shem Kaveh Malchus Elam Vod, is Yichud Tata, meaning a lower level of unity. We're going to, maybe one way I'll say it, we're going to learn about God's unity from God's perspective, and we're going to learn about God's unity from our perspective, the human perspective and the godly perspective, about God's unity, the higher level of God's unity and the lower level of God's unity. But let's talk about education for a minute, and we're going to go and bring a quote from Shlomo HaMelech, from King Solomon, from Proverbs, and we're going to talk about education. We're going to get into education for a little bit, and then we'll go back to the higher level of unity and the lower level of unity. So it says, Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon writes in Proverbs, it says, educate the child according to his ways. So basically that means the way the kid understands. Don't educate a child as you'd be educating adult. Tailor your education to the childish understanding. Why? So gam ki yaskin. So even when your child will become older, when he'll become the father, he'll become the adult, la yasser mimeno, he won't leave it. So he's going to question, I think, one or two questions on the statement. So let's just say the statement again and see what the questions are. Educate your child according to the child's ways, according to the childish ways, educating the child ways so that when he gets older, he shouldn't leave it. So he says, he says, this kind of sounds like a contradiction. You want me to educate the child according to the childish ways, which seems to imply that this is not the right way. You're just educating him because it's his language. It's the way the child understands. So educate your child based on the child's ways, and indicating base him in a childish way, in a way that's for him, which is not the real way of education, but it's something that's unique to his level of understanding, which indicating that this is not what adults should do. This is something that you should do as a child. Well, that seems to contradict the end of the saying in Proverbs. Why are you saying so that he shouldn't turn away from it when he's an adult, when he's older? He shouldn't go away from it. We do want him to go away from it. This is an education that's specifically geared to a child. Why would you want him not to leave it when he's an adult? So let's say, I just make this really simple, in a simple-minded way. Let's just say, like, if you need to give a kid lollipops so that he should learn, you don't want the kid to keep on eating lollipops when he's an adult. Why is King Solomon saying this question? The answer is going to be, because we're going to get lengthy, so I'm going to share with you the answer right now, is that there's a basic foundational part of educating a child that even when your child is growing in life and he's going up and he's left the childish, the inspiration you gave him as a child, and he's gone and become an adult and become much more mature and learn Torah in a much deeper way. But you know what? He also will fall down as an adult from his high adult level, as long as he always has the essence of teachings that you gave him as a little kid, and that's still pure there, that he can always fall back on, that will last him even to adulthood. So maybe a way we would say, that maybe teach children the childish story, you teach the Torah in a way for children. It's very powerful, because although your kids have to grow up and they have to study Torah as an adult in a much deeper way, those stories you told your children as a child will be not a way you want them to live as an adult, because you don't want them to live in their adult life with the childish stories, but those inspiration and messages you gave your kid as a child will last him when, even as an adult, he doesn't have the strength to continue for whatever reason, which we're going to study today. He has his ups and downs. Over there, the original education, the inspiration you gave your kid as a child would last with him. So that's going to be the answer, kind of, which we'll go. But let's continue along. So we're still asking the question. So let's discuss this idea of education that we keep on talking about in Tanya. That a very basic understanding that the Rebbe says of being a Jew is that you have to have passion and inspiration to your mitzvahs. Okay, you need to be inspired to be a good Jew. You can't do Judaism like a dead Jew. You can't do mitzvahs dead. There has to be feelings and meaning and passion behind it. It's not that I'm doing it because I have to. I love Hashem. You have to have a love of Hashem. You have to have awe of Hashem, and those have to be the motors to your mitzvahs. And we have to invest time in making sure those things are real. So the awe and fear of heaven is the basic for Sur Meirah, for for not doing bad, okay? Did I record? Let me see. I think, yeah, I'm recording. Good. So not to do bad, you want your kid to have a sense of awe and fear of Hashem, trepidation of God, which will say, I know God's here. I know God's watching me. I can't do this. How can I hurt Hashem? Can I go against God? That is the drive, the emotions, the passion behind not doing anything bad. The ava, and he should also have good, a healthy dose of love of Hashem, so that he can do good. So for all the mitzvahs, to encourage him and have passion behind his mitzvahs, he should love Hashem. The kiyum kol mitzvahs asi d'oraisa rabbanan, to fulfill all the mitzvahs, whether they're biblical mitzvahs or rabbinic mitzvahs. He should also have a healthy dose of passion and emotion of love of Hashem, in order to give him, the mitzvahs shouldn't just be dead mitzvahs, but they should be alive mitzvahs. Like we'll explain in another place, as we explained in chapter 4 and 41, that it's essential to have the passion and the drive and the emotion, love and awe of Hashem, so that you can do the mitzvahs with your whole heart. Now he says, let's talk about also teaching our children. One of the mitzvahs that a parent has is to educate your children. A parent has not to just to bring the kids to bar mitzvah without doing anything and then saying, here, go serve Hashem, but a parent has an obligation to educate his children, as it says in the Shulchan Aruch in section 343, that a parent has that obligation. So as parents, we're obligated to make sure our kids do all the mitzvahs. They have to bench and they have to, they can't eat non-kosher. A parent has an obligation to make sure his children do the mitzvahs. Now, which would then mean that if you have a obligation to teach them to do the actual physical mitzvahs, you also as a parent have to give them the passion and the drive behind the mitzvahs. So you also are obligated as a parent to teach your child to love Hashem and fear Hashem. So part of raising a good child is that do the mitzvahs, and not just do the mitzvahs, but let me also teach you how to have the right love and fear of Hashem together with doing the mitzvahs. Now, that love and fear of Hashem that you teach your child as a kid, as a little kid, might be very different than you teach your child when he gets older and more mature, that love and fear you give him as a child. So what he's going to then shoot off and say is that you should know that it's not just a child, we're talking about actually a kid and an adult, we're actually also talking about an adult himself who is the beginning of a service of Hashem and at a tzaddik level of a service of Hashem. So that could also be a child, meaning you're beginning to have as an adult even, your love and awe of Hashem as in a more unexperienced way, as a beginner's way, and then you love and fear of Hashem as a tzaddik, as when you reach the level of tzaddik. And his message here will be, just like a kid is inspired when he's young, will last with him a lifetime, even when he's mature, so to a person, the love and fear of Hashem he feels at his beginning of his service of Hashem, not as a tzaddik, will also be necessary when he moves on and grows and gets higher levels in life. That love of Hashem will be necessary at that point in time. So to bring out that point that I'm mentioning, that we're also talking about an adult who has beginner experience of love and fear in Hashem, and then tzaddik level love and fear in Hashem. By love of Hashem, if you look in the Torah portion of Ekev, which is in the 5th Chumash, Moshe Rabbeinu says, Asher anoichi mitzvah eschem la'asoisa. The Avos Hashem, Moses tells the Jewish people, I am commanding you today to do this thing, to love God. I'm commanding you today to do this thing, to love God. So the question he asks on the verse, which he wants to get to a point he wants to make, is why does it say to do this thing, to love God? How, when you're talking about emotions, right, you got to go to the therapist. It's not an action oriented mitzvah. It's more of a emotional level that you're working on. It's not so much here's the program, do A, B, C, and D, but it's more of like go to yoga or go to meditation or something like that. What's the term of active do physical, kind of like it's a do this and you'll have it. What does that mean? So he says like this. So he says there's two levels. He wants to get to the point here. There's two levels. This is where he wants to get to, love of Hashem. And the more mature one, the tzaddik one, and then the beginner's one, which most of us are beginners probably, but the beginners, there's two levels of love of Hashem. What are they? And he's going to explain to you what the two levels of love of Hashem are. One is the natural love that the soul has to Hashem. our godly soul within us, has a love to Hashem, an intrinsic love that it sees God. You don't see it with your physical body, but your soul does, and you feel it. Now, why don't you feel it in your body? Because your body is very mundane, it's very physical, and it's blocking you from having the experience of you, your physical you, being able to feel and those emotions of the soul has towards Hashem. However, your job is to break the animal instincts, to overcome it, to overcome it. How? Because Hashem gave you a very strong brain, a seichel, an intellect, and the seichel, as we discussed in the last few days of Tanya, has the power to overcome the body, has the ability it's stronger than the heart, and it's able to intellectually meditate on Hashem and to control the body and the coarseness and the physicality of the body, the materialism of the body, and then overcome it. So when he does that and he gets the body to stop being such a disturbance and such a headache and such a hiding of Hashem, by thinking and meditating and controlling the body, as he tislav, by controlling his animals, tislav, then the oaths and the fire will able to express itself and be shining forth. So the main work of this expression of love of Hashem is not to make the fire burn, but it's basically to break the disturbances to the fire, move away the curtains. That's its main job, because the fire is already burning and shining. And then through doing that, the body the fire that's already there will be able to shine forth. That is the tug of Tismach B'Hashem, and then the body and the soul will all be rejoicing Hashem, will feel tremendous pleasure towards Hashem in his physical body, and a sensation of godliness by removing all the physical distractions and overcoming the bodily distraction. And those who merit this tremendous love of Hashem, those people are called tzaddikim. They're very holy, righteous people. Could exceed, like it says, Simchu tzaddikim Hashem, tzaddikim will be happy of Hashem. In this world, they're feeling the experience that the souls all feel in the world to come. But already, because they've moved away their coarseness, their materialism, their physicality, in this world, the tzaddikim already having tremendous love and passion to Hashem, because they overcame their minds, overcame their mundane physical desires, and they're able to strengthen and connect to Hashem. However, this is not only for tzaddikim. And not everybody will merit to have this level of feeling in this world, to feel such a holiness to Hashem. Because it's not an easy thing, because you really have to overcome your coarseness that we're naturally born with. You need tremendous amount of Torah to study Torah, and you need tremendous amount of mitzvahs, good deeds, to merit to have the high level of your soul, because we learn always that there's three levels of the soul. There is the lowest level of the soul, there is the emotional level of the soul, and then there's the intellectual level of the soul. It's called nefesh, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Now, which one are you? Which one are you? Which soul are you in touch with? Which part of your soul? So there's some people who don't feel spiritual much at all. They just know this is what Hashem wants, and that's it. Those are the lowest level souls. And there's people who are emotionally connected. That's the second level of soul. Then there's level of neshama, the highest level of these three levels, and they feel intellectually very much connected to Hashem, and that's where tzaddikim operate. They're in touch with that level of soul, because they've controlled by so many mitzvahs, by breaking the coarseness of their body. They're not interested in physical things, they're interested in spiritual things, and that's all they're into, and they're tzaddikim. They're in touch with the third level of their soul, which is neshama, which is higher than the lower two, ruach and nefesh, that the others, that's what they're in touch with. Like it says in the book of Reishis Chachma, explains in detail how you have different levels of soul and what you're in touch with. And that, my friends, is the end of the description of the first level of love of Hashem. So it's basically telling you, this is not a method how to create love of Hashem. It's a method of how to break your coarseness. And by breaking your coarseness, that will automatically allow you to get in touch with a very high level of your soul, and you'll feel that tremendous love and passion to Hashem. That is level tzaddik. That's tzaddik level. That you're operating as a tzaddik. But the second level, the other level which we want to talk about is Ava shall call Adam Yuchal Agila. It's a love that everyone could go to. You don't have to be a tzaddik for this love. How do you do this? It's not just all about breaking your coarseness. It's about meditating on God. When you meditate from the depths of your heart, you do real serious meditation and thoughts. By thinking about things that will bring you to love Hashem. And there are a number of ways which we have already discussed in Tanya in the past a month about various ways of loving Hashem. And he brings some of them here. Either by a very general manner of loving Hashem. What do you think? That God is my life. And naturally, I love my life. And once I meditate and realize that God is my life, he's the source of my life. If I love myself, for sure I have to love God, who is my life. So you meditate on that. You say that I love you because you are me. I love God because he is me, he's my life. And that is a general way of meditation, and you'll come to love Hashem. So that is a way for you to burn the fire, put the logs on the fire, make that fire light by thinking how Hashem is your life. Or in a more detailed way, which you also discussed in the last month in Tanya. You think in great detail how Hashem is the king of all worlds. You realize how much Hashem many worlds and all the creations that Hashem is king of all worlds. That what? That, and you understand everything that your brain could comprehend. You look around the world, wow, Hashem created this, and then you even understand that there are things you can comprehend. So you know how physical world operates, and you say Hashem is beyond whatever I understand. Hashem is beyond it. So I'm able to know what I'm able to know about Hashem, and there's also the part that I'm able to know that Hashem is beyond, that there's part, I recognize that there are certain parts of Hashem that he's beyond whatever I'm able to understand. And after that, so you meditate about the greatness of Hashem, what I could understand literally, and also what I could understand that I can't understand. And then you follow up that meditation with the greatness of God, with how much Hashem loves you. That Hashem went down to Egypt, we were like the homeless, lowest people that nobody cared about. And Hashem went there to Egypt, to lift up our soul from the Kur Har Barzel, from the iron cubicle. We're melted out over there like a melting place, which is the evil inclination. So Hashem took us out. We were the lowest, disgusting level. Hashem took us out. And why did he do that? Because he loved us so much. To make us connect with Hashem's soul on Matan Torah. And Hashem and his name are one. The Hainu, that took us off the most unholy, impure level, to the greatest heights, to give us the Torah. Hashem's greatness is infinite. So as upon him, as a mirror, just water reflects the face, so too our love will reflect Hashem. The Oider Ra'ava, believe, called masculine is bainan, will awaken with a great love. Anyone who thinks about these things means with his depths of the heart. Love is Hashem Ava, to love Hashem with a great love. To connect Hashem with his whole heart. I'll explain it in its place at length. So what we're trying to get to is, okay, we're almost done, sorry. We're going to, where's the book of Tanya here? I think we have one more part of Tanya, one more message that before we start to finish up today's introduction to Tanya. Hang on one second. And that's exactly what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to inspire us to do, to plant it in our hearts in the Chumash Devarim, right? When Moses gave his long speech at the end of his life, he wanted to really connect us to get us to love Hashem. And this is what he says. V'yata Yisrael, this is what Moses says, and now Yisrael, what is Hashem asking from you? And he talks about the greatness of Hashem first. He says, guys, meditate on the greatness of Hashem. Hashem is all the whole heaven. Look at all the creations, everything that Hashem made and has, all the creations. And what does God want? He wanted your fathers. He took your fathers out of Egypt. What did he want? And he made you as numerous as the stars. And 70 people you came. Now look what God did for your fathers. And he loved you. And therefore you should love Hashem. So basically you meditate on the greatness of God. You meditate on this meditation of how much Hashem loves you, like he's been describing the meditation. So Moses is telling all this to the Jews. He says, look how great Hashem is. Look at everything Hashem made. Yeah, what did he want? He took your forefathers, 70 people, and then you became idolaters in Egypt, and then he took you out. So this is all to get you to love Hashem. And that's why he finishes, that's why I'm commanding you to do this. Why is he commanding you to do this? Because it really is up to the person to choose what he meditates about literally, because that will cause his love for Hashem. Because as long as you use your mind correctly to think about wisdom, understanding, and comprehension and knowledge, as long as you really meditate on it, you will come to love Hashem. So it's called to do because it's really up to it's really in your hands to literally light the fire and get this fire going. Is up to your actions. It's up to your mind and what you want to think about. And that's why Moses commands in the Shema, he says, these words should be on your heart today, in order that you should love God. So when you will think about all the things that I commanded you to think about, Moshe Rabbeinu says, to know how great Hashem is and know how much Hashem loves you, then I command you to love Hashem today because you will automatically love Hashem. Moshe could say this love, if we were talking about the first love, which is overcome your physicality, your grossness, it's not up to you really 100% to get the love of Hashem. It's up to us. It's you do what you can. Hopefully Hashem will give it to you. But here we're talking about something that every human being could do, that can meditate and love Hashem. And therefore it could be a commandment. It can't command you to love ice cream. It might just not be something you love. But if I command you to love a thing that comes through direct meditation, I could command you to love that. The first love, she shall have which is a fire that comes on its own, and you're just removing the coverings. Moses Rabbeinu cannot command the Jews to love Hashem in that way because it's not really up to them. And that is kind of even like a gift from God to get the first kind of love. To be able to live in this world and feel like what a soul feels in the world to come. That's a gift from God, like we'll explain in its place. So we could directly and literally, physically command you to do meditations in order that you should come to end up loving Hashem, and that is something that we could and we will command you to do. Now, to wrap it up, finish the introduction. We know that it says that a tzaddik will fall 7 times, right? It says that in Proverbs, King Solomon writes that a tzaddik will fall 7 times. That, you don't think a tzaddik has smooth sailing. He says, but it's specifically is going to explain what that means, that a tzaddik will fall 7 times. That Hashem will challenge you, whatever level you're on, Hashem will continue to challenge you as you grow. And every time you leave one level, you have to go to the next level. And you're on dangerous footing when you're making it through the challenge. Who says you're going to right away move on and succeed in that challenge? Maybe you're going to fall before you move on to the next challenge. Every time, you move on to another level, it's dangerous, right? Like imagine an investment. You want to make sure that when you invest in the next investment from your first investment, you don't lose everything in between. So he's saying, God made us people that it's not smooth sailing, that people have to work and they have to develop, go from one step to the next step. So also in tzaddikim, in service of God, as we grow, we move and there's challenges and you go from step to step. It's dangerous sometimes in between one footing and the next. Part of life is that we grow. We're not just invested once and then we're going to stay there. In life, you have to keep on growing. The golden life is not just to stay in one spot. And then between one step and the next step, whenever you're going from one step to the next, you're falling down off that level before you go to the next. You're in dangerous waters. But the point is that even when you're going from one step to the next and you fall, you're going through that challenge, that challenging time, which you fall off one level before you're ready to climb up and then have the next level of faith and move on to the next level. You should know you don't fall down completely. Why? And here's the catch, because as that tzaddik's continuing to grow with the second kind of love of Hashem, he always can rely on with the love of Hashem that was implanted in him when he was childish, so to say, the beginner's love of Hashem, which is a fire that is up to him to grow. So when he's climbing from level to level, he always falls back, doesn't fall down completely, he just falls back on his original love of Hashem. That it was the beginner's level of love. It's only falling relative to your first level before he gets to the second level. When the tzaddik falls, he doesn't become a totally bad person. He falls relative to his high level of being a tzaddik. He's still way higher than everybody else's surface of God, because he still has a little bit from his first level. But he always can fall back on his original love of Hashem, which he was educated with before he became a tzaddik. That's what it means. That you should educate a child according to his ways, that he, even when he's older, he could always count on it. He could always rely on that. And that is what it means, that the tzaddik will always come back to the first level of love of Hashem that you can get through creating your own fire, even when he's climbing from level to level and he's going through dangerous places that he might fall down from his high level, he always could fall back in between on that original love of Hashem. Now, what is that? What is that first love that we could meditate on and we could get? What do we think about, right? You asked the question. The thinking about Hashem is his unity and oneness of God, that God is the energy and power of the whole world. That is the original meditation that the person thinks about, is that Hashem is the one sole power of energy. And what do I think about? What is that thought that I think about, that Hashem is the one sole power and energy of the world? And that, my friends, is why this book of Tanya, second Tanya, book of Tanya was written, is to teach us about the unity and the oneness and the power of Hashem, and what we should meditate on, those thoughts that we need to think about. That is the basic belief of a Jew, and he meditates on to create that Ava and Yira of Hashem. And that is the end of the introduction of why we are studying this book. So again, Alter Rebbe wrote a book to give us the meditation to think about the basics, belief, and faith of a Yid in Hashem. Any questions or